Hi there, I'm Brian Griffin, and you're listening to The Lunch Hour, serving up food for the mind. Today's entree is politics. What's on your mind today? The governor's budget? Stem cell research? Give us a hot spoonful of your opinion. Okay, we have a question from Quahog. Caller, you're on The Lunch Hour. Can I take your order?
Yes, I'll have a big helping of the pretentious crap.
Whoa, sometimes the crazy ones get through. Join us next week when our guest will be Gore Vidal. And remember, life is full of entrees, so don't fill up on bread. I'm going to throw you now to Weenie in the Butt in the afternoon. Weenie in the Butt!
97.1
In the afternoon!
in the afternoon.
Oh my God.
WQHG!
Turn it on and rip the knob off.
You're listening to the radio.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I travel through the most unusual countryside. I call this place home, Canada, but I'm joined by fellow Canadian podcaster and all-around nice guy,
JT from Saskatoon. How you doing?
I am doing very well. So, as we most often start off every single show here on This Week in Geek for pretty much about the last 15 years, if you can believe that, we typically talk about the week that has been in our personal lives. And if you've been following my adventures on my TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, I have been pursuing a opportunity. And this past week, I had my second interview, and this one was in person at Guelph City Hall. Can't say exactly what the position is just yet until I've found out whether I've got it or not. But I did consider several good things that happened leading up to this. I met the mayor outside of City Hall, and we hung out for just a couple of minutes. And the mayor for Guelph currently, because we have a municipal election coming up in the next couple of weeks, we started talking about nerd stuff. And immediately we start talking about Transformers. As you folks know, that's a huge kind of love of mine. And my mayor, Cam, is also big into it. He likes to go garage sale, thrifting, and everything. And he was talking with me a couple of weeks ago how he found a huge Ghostbusters 1988 lot from Kenner that had a lot of really good pieces in it. And he got it for like $50. Nice. We also talked about NECA Aliens Toys, which is one of the current license holders of that particular property. But yeah, so either way, he gave me a huge handshake, a big grip on the shoulder. He's like, good luck. I don't have any saying in the hiring process, but I hope I run into you in the hallways. And then I went in, I had my interview. Long story short, I got to reference RoboCop, the Avengers, and what else did I get a chance to bring up? I think I got a chance to bring up Mass Effect as well, because they wanted me to explain certain things. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to try this. When I had one of my first interviews, I was talking about how to position some messaging, and I said, okay, so for those of you that watch wrestling, I'm going to tell you how you build a WrestleMania card. And they were like, that's actually really, really, really clever. Can you tell me more? But yeah, I had a fantastic time. These people are just wonderful. And if this is where I'm supposed to be, we'll wait and see what happens. I should find out hopefully fairly soon. So other than that, I went to Guelph Spoken Word, which is an event that I do here in Guelph every third Saturday of the month. And they had this really awesome feature. He is a poet from Hamilton, and he came up through, I think, a youth program down there. His name is Eddie. If you want to look him up on Instagram, his name is Tupac Shakespeare. And at the end of his set last night, he was like, "Hey, if you want to follow me on Instagram, do this." And I had my phone out, and he's like, "I like this guy. He's doing it right away. I'm going to follow you right back." So yeah, that was really, 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 really awesome. And yeah, it's a fantastic time. It's something that I look forward to doing every single month here in Guelph. And I obviously invite you people, if you live in a fairly decent sized city or community, look out for your local arts community. You might very well be surprised about the things you can find there. And I mean, look on Facebook, look on Reddit, look on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and just search local hashtags. You might be surprised. Oh yeah, speaking of that, I was in the newspaper again this past week in the Guelph Mercury Tribune. I was talking about a local Indigenous art installation. So if you go to the Guelph Mercury Tribune, just type in Mike Ashkowee, you should be able to find me on there. I think the article's still up. My mother-in-law got a copy of the paper. I didn't, so I should really try and find that. But yeah, so that's been my week. What about you, JT?
Well, two things about what you said there, Mike. First of all, the fact that you even got considered for a position while quoting Clarence Boddicker, "Can you fly, Bobby?" I find that amazing and awesome. And when you spoke about the aliens NECA figures, is that the line that is like a reinterpretation of those 90s? Like,
they do have a line of that specifically where they do a reinterpretation of the Kenner figure. So yes,
Yeah.
that is NECA.
Okay, because I've seen those, and it's like, I wish I had that money. But for me, it's about the usual, working, counting down the clock, because I don't know if I mentioned the last time I was on that recently I gave my notice at my current job. I'm moving on to another job, possibly looking getting a second, because, well, I'm a greedy capitalist and I like more money. So I'm counting down the last few days there, starting to permit a little more of the listening to that voice in the back of my mind that's like, what have you done? What have you done? What have you done? Because, I've been there for like 13 years and dear God, why? But aside from that, just trying to keep my head above water, like mentally. Like the last couple months have been
not fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm need to get medicated or anything. It's just with the stress at work and making this huge life-changing decision, it's been pretty stressful. And just trying to do a lot of the things that trying to rediscover my passions a lot, like comics and video games, because as much as I've been playing video games and half-heartedly reading comics lately, it's just because of everything. It's the fun isn't there as much as it used to be. So I'm just trying to double down and get back into that. So sorry to bring the show down so early.
No. I mean, that's an important thing that I discovered while Alex gave me time off from the show to heal. It was rediscovering my love of video games, because when you review them here on the show, you have the proverbial gun to your head. And I know myself recently, I'm going through the Batman Arkham series. I finished Arkham Asylum about a week ago. I'm working through Arkham City right now. And I could not have done this a year ago with a good, clear conscience, because there's always something coming up. And again, thankfully, surgery and the pandemic have kind of allowed me to rediscover certain passions. I mean, even right now, we're not running the RPG podcast right now because I just finished a huge arc for Stargate for you guys. Alex is supposed to be taking over Power Rangers because I need a break, and I'm doing a private D&D game for some friends of mine that I've met here kind of locally. And it's important to be able to rediscover your passions, and sometimes that means re-engaging with them in a different manner. And as you mentioned, like when you only half-heartedly read it, that you're not enjoying it. I mean, I myself am the same way. Like, I haven't read a Power Rangers comic in like over a year. I don't know what's going on, but I want to get back into it, but I need to be in that right headspace. And that's very much an important part of self-care, is rediscovering that headspace in a very organic way. Because if you try and force it, you're probably going to start to hate what you're going into.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, I haven't played PC games since a couple of months back, and I don't know if we've mentioned this on the show before. In a totally unexpected act of generosity from one Birdman, I am now in the possession of a PS4, because I'm pretty sure Mike was like, I'm tired of this guy bitching all the time. Get with the now, man. So I've been playing a lot of games on that. Like the first two things I bought were the Arkham collection, like the re-upped versions of Asylum and City and Night. And I've beaten Asylum. I practically sped run that because I've played it so many times. Right now, I am hacking my way almost literally through Assassin's Creed Unity, which I remember hearing such horror stories both on the show and from other friends about how bad that game was at launch, but it's several years later, and I guess it's on. Although I did see the weirdest glitch both in the first couple of weeks of playing it and just recently I've seen it again. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Mike, but it's like first was a woman, second was a man. It looks like they're sitting down, but then they just go gliding along the ground like they're in a Jetsons car.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty weird shit from that game.
Yeah,
and you know what? Unity wasn't a terrible game itself. Like the game is it's fine. It's just it had a lot of tech issues. Although I will say, once you get the katana in that game, you never need to use any other sword.
I know, because I just got the katana and I was like, GT, so happy. Also, it's not a criticism per se, but the game, it suffers from Jean-Luc Picard syndrome, which is, it's in France. It's revolutionary France, like Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, but everyone speaks with a British accent.
Yep. It's just one of those things weird. You just got to take.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got a jam-packed show for you to talk about this week. I know from Alex, we're going to be taking a voyage under the sea with Roy Schneider. We're also going to be taking a look at a new game he reviewed on the Nintendo Switch. Coming from myself, we're going to be taking a look at something connected to my spirit animal, which is Wagoosh, or fox in Ojibwe, with Endling Extinction is Forever on the PlayStation 5. And then we're going to finally talk about what's going on in the latest saga of Ezra Miller and how that is potentially coming to an end. So we'll be talking about all that and more right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So we're going to start things off with my review. This is Endling Extinction is Forever on the PlayStation 5. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got a chance for review. This one comes to us from Hero Beat Studios and Handy Games. I'm talking about Endling Extinction is Forever. So what this is a survival game where you play as a mother fox. And for those of you that have been following my indigenous journey over the last year, you guys should know the fox is very important to me. In Ojibwe, the word for fox is Wagoosh or Wagosh. So Alex sent this over to me to play, and he's like, be prepared, this game's going to break your heart. And I'm thinking, okay, how? And over the game's relatively short playtime, you're going to beat this in under 5 or 6 hours. You will find out what I mean. And there are some really cute and heartwarming moments in this too, especially when you get to decide what your little baby kits look like. But there's moments where they're playing in the snow and just little cutscenes, and when you sleep with them. So the object of the game is, at one point, one of your cubs gets kidnapped and you have to track them down. And you can follow their scent trail, but at the same time, you also have to teach your pups how to survive. And you're going to have to feed them, as there's always a hunger meter that's fighting against you. And you're going to have to figure out traps and obstacles. There are other predators in the world that want you dead. There are human hunters, though not all humans are bad. And it's a game, I would describe it as like a 2.5D Fox-infused Metroidvania, because you do have to do a lot of backtracking. You do have to find alternate paths, but there's always something to explore. And when your cubs start learning skills, it opens up a lot more options for you. Endling Extinction is forever. It's one of those games that's going to stick with you. I do recommend bringing a box of tissues at times, because there are some fairly big moments that will move you. Well, if you've got a heart, that is. I had a fantastic time with this game. It's something that I think is worth your time. It's relatively cheap. So please check this game out. That is Endling. Extinction is forever. And as you finish playing this game, I really want you to think about your own environmental footprint. So hopefully this will never come to pass.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's JT from Saskatoon. All right, so coming to us from Variety, we have an update to the Ezra Miller, we'll call it situation, to put it lightly. Flash star Ezra Miller seeking treatment for, quote, complex mental health issues. This was an exclusive that was given to Variety. The Flash star Ezra Miller says they are seeking treatment for, quote, complex mental health issues. In a statement provided to Variety by a representative of the actor, Miller broke their silence about the troubling behavior they have exhibited in recent years, which has led to a series of legal issues and assault and abuse allegations. Miller also apologized for their actions. Quote, having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental issues and have begun ongoing treatment, Miller says. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I'm committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life. The embattled actor, who is non-binary, uses they and them pronouns, played the DC Comics character Barry Allen in 2017's Justice League and its 2021 counterpart Zack Snyder's Justice League. But their role in the comic book franchise has been overshadowed by their off-screen behavior, which has alarmed friends and associates of the actor, as well as Warner Brothers, the studio behind The Flash. Most recently, Miller was charged with felony burglary in Vermont after the state police investigated an incident involving several bottles of alcohol being taken from a residence while the homeowners were not present. The actor made headlines in 2020 after a recording surfaced in which they appeared to be choking a woman outside a bar in Iceland. No charges were filed. The actor has been arrested twice in Hawaii this year, once for disorderly conduct and harassment. In the Hawaii incidents, Miller pleaded no contest to a single misdemeanor of disorderly conduct and paid a $500 fine and $30 in court costs. The harassment charge was dismissed. The series of scandals became snowballing public relations issue, not only for Miller, but for Warner Brothers Discovery, which employed the actor across two of its cornerstone franchises, DC Comics and the Harry Potter spin-off series Fantastic Beasts. A source close to the studio says Warner Brothers supports Miller's decision to seek professional help. The Flash is set to open in theaters July 23rd, 2023. Reportedly serves as a key entry in the studio's DC Comics films, featuring appearances by Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton as Batman. So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm glad they are seeking help.
Yeah, but I mean, the article where it says, what is it? Issued by a representative.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't think he did. I sorry. They. I don't think Ezra did that of their own free will.
yeah, this is a move. Say, look, if you do this, they're going to tank the movie. You will be held legally liable. That's
Oh,
what I think. Like, you're probably right, JT. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think this is something that Ezra came to of their own free will. This seems like this was very forced. Now, that being said, if they are indeed seeking professional help, I do hope they seek inpatient and they get out of the public eye for a couple of years. Um, because their pattern of behavior, it's very troubling. And maybe you would wonder on some level if it's the public pressure of being such a huge star to something that's so important to so many people. And I'm not meaning to pump them up saying, hey, they're like Tom Holland as Spider-Man or Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. No, like DC's important to a lot of people. The Flash is one of those characters. Like, they're a founding member of the Justice League. And when Flash showed up in Peacemaker, a lot of people were caught by surprise by that.
Yeah.
And people liked them. But then we found out a couple of weeks ago, Ezra showed up for reshoots between being charged by the cops and having all these terrible things happen.
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers, to a certain extent, doesn't care. They want their money. They want their movie. And we discussed this with Ken. There are three options. They either do the movie with limited press, Miller seeks treatment, or they nuke it. I think I forgot a third option here. But regardless, the nuclear option was on the table. The nuclear football was on the table, and they were all saying, well, Mr. Zaslav, do you wish to push the button? And I'm going to say this. This is not over yet.
Oh, far from it. Like, because like I said, like the provided to Variety by representative the actor. Like this is Zaslav, David Zaslav, with his finger on the not on the button but on the trigger. Like, for lack of a better word, this is Zaslav putting a gun to the head of Ezra Miller's career.
Yeah, pretty much.
And like, imagine that scene from Pulp Fiction. Like, Ezra Miller's in the chair, and
Mr. Blonde's doing his dance around him.
No, that's Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, okay.
Pulp Fiction. Like, think of Zaslav as being Jules.
Yeah.
Like Sam Judge, like, and I will rain down upon you great vengeance and furious anger. Because, we spoke before about how he's got this 10-year plan for DC movies, and I'm all for that. But it's stuff like this. I can't help reflect on all the last few months of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard rigmarole, because during that time, like, there were men and women on both sides, like, trying to cancel Amber Heard, trying to cancel Johnny Depp. No one's trying to cancel Ezra Miller because of all this stuff. Like, this is some pretty serious charges, and like stuff that he's. Like I said the last time I was on, he may or may not have started a cult when he was in Iceland.
Yeah, and there was the allegations of potentially grooming somebody, and then the other allegation on his ranch, there was a baby found with a bullet in their mouth.
Yeah.
Like, this is serious shit. Like, Ezra, seriously, you need to go away for a while, and maybe you need to rethink your life's path in terms of a career.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help. Not a damn thing. I'm glad, and I hope you're recognizing that, it's okay to step away. You've made your money. Hopefully you've invested wisely. And it's okay to go have a quiet life somewhere in Vermont and live on your ranch. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. There's absolutely no shame, whatever, seeking help. I mean, when I was perusing the articles for, our topics today, I saw there was a note in the side of this one about Jonah Hill not doing any press for his new film Stutz because, he's suffered from anxiety attacks over the last several years. And reading that came off as more, that was his decision, not something like, I'm not saying Ezra doesn't want to get help, but just the situation sounds like more of the studio stepping in is like, look, y'all are supposed to be the Crimson Comet. You're acting like the Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
Knock your shit off.
I mean, with like Jonah Hill, you're right. For him, he seems like a person who is very much in control of what he says and does at almost all times. And if he says, look, I don't want to deal with press junkets, I don't want to do reporters, my guess is you might get the odd quote out of him, the odd time. But you know what? That's fine. I was actually saying this to Alex a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, what the fuck ever happened to Jonah Hill? And I guess he just kind of does his own thing. And you know what? That's fine. Mental health is important. So hopefully it'll go better for the both of them. So moving on to our next. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, JT.
I was just going to say, after I saw him in Moneyball, he also went and like worked out like a beast because he's about half the size he used to be.
Yeah, he's certainly
bettering
put in
himself.
Yeah, he's got those gains. So this story comes to us from Gizmodo. It's a little older. It came out last week, but it's very important for me to talk about this because I think if they do this right, it'll be fantastic. So this story comes to us from Gizmodo. Sony's Ghost of Tsushima film may be entirely in Japanese. Sony's determined to make as many of its first-party PlayStation games into films or TV shows as possible, with the immediate of the bunch being Naughty Dog's The Last of Us becoming a TV show for HBO. Also on the hypothetical adaptation docket is the samurai open-world game Ghost of Tsushima, who locked down John Wick's Chad Wickstowski to direct earlier this year. And while the film is a ways off, partially because of Stowski's is a pretty busy man, he did reveal his plan for the film involves it being spoken in Japanese. Speaking to Collider Steve Weintraub, Stalsky, I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess this guy's name up, talked during the film. All the characters, it's a Japanese thing about the Mongols invading Tsushima Island, a complete Japanese cast in Japanese. As a self-professed lover of Japan and one with a samurai fetish, quote unquote, he was pretty open in his excitement about bringing the game to life for a wider audience. It's your typical mythological story of good versus evil, finding a man, watching him change the world, or the world changes him. It's all about the Joseph Campbell stuff that you love in your story. His desire to make a film entirely in subtitles may remind some of the 2020 Oscars when Parasite director Bong Joon-ho flat out said that if more people watch subtitled films, they'd be introduced to so many more amazing films. The director is aware that he's got a hurdle ahead of him in pitching this idea to production companies, but is optimistic he can pull it off, especially if the action and scope are good enough that subtitles won't actually matter. I'll read subtitles all day, he admitted, and I think America in general, or at least the Western audiences in general, are getting more and more used to that because of the influence of Netflix and streamers and stuff, where we go to get so much a world of content. Look, if I nail all the other bits, I think I can inspire you enough to get in the car and go to theater. Developer, infamous creator Sucker Punch, Ghost of Tsushima, tells the story of Jin Sakai, the survivor of an attack on the titular island during the 1274 Mongol invasion of Japan. Torn between his long-held beliefs in the samurai code and adopting new stealthier tactics, it fell to Jin to recruit allies to push back against the Mongols. Tsushima became a critical and commercial darling when it released in 2020, and again in 2021 when it went to the PlayStation 5 with a new story expansion. For better or worse, the game is notably influenced by the samurai works of acclaimed director Akira Kurosawa, to the point where a black and white visual filter is named after the late filmmaker. This should absolutely happen completely in Japanese. And JT, you need to play this game. It is probably one of the best games I've ever played.
Oh no, I've long held a fascination, and mostly the romanticized Western idea of samurai. Being the, for lack of a better analog, the Japanese version of a knight. And I mean, just the look of the weapons, the ideas of the culture. Uh, One of the first animes that I actively sought out when I was getting into anime was Samurai 7, because I loved, the Magnificent Seven, which is, of course, directly based off of the Kurosawa great, the Seven Samurai. Also, check out the Blind Swordsman series that he did. Those movies are awesome. So, yeah, I would definitely love to get that. If Hiroyuki Sanada from Bullet Train and The Wolverine, and honestly, the best, and there's no contest, he's the best Scorpion on screen with the Mortal Kombat franchise. Because he can actually fight. Sorry.
He would be a good Jin, actually. Yeah, I mean, even if they didn't get the guy who did the voice of Jin to be in the movie, which, honestly, if that guy can be trained how to sword fight, he could pull it off. But the guy you just mentioned, the guy who played Scorpion, he'd be a really good Jin Sakai. And for Jin's father, there's a number of Japanese actors that could pull this off. In fact, even the elder from Bullet Train, like you were just mentioning, he could do it too. Like there's half that cast could do this. And the girl that played Yuna, you could find a young Japanese actress that could pull that off. And like it would be a magical time. And my wife just delivered to me more magic because she's going to give me coffee. So I love my darling wife. Thank you, darling wife.
Yeah. Now, I'm just looking up here, the Daisuke Tsuji is the American voice actor or actor, born in Kuwait to Japanese parents, who voiced the, Jin. Definitely look. There's also the, can't remember. Have you seen the new Snake Eyes movie that came out last year?
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Not Henry Golding. Andrew Koji, the guy that played Storm Shadow.
Storm Shadow. Yes, I could totally see that.
Because I started watching that show Warriors on, which is based on some writings from Bruce Lee, is my understanding. I love the name is Asim in the show, and I was like, please tell me that's a real name and it's not just a bastardization of awesome, because either way the show is. But no, I definitely want to get this game. This is on the list. Maybe when it's down a few price points, because it's $90. I was looking on the website. And also it's Chad Stahelski. We know him from the John Wick series. Longtime collaborator. I think he was Keanu Reeves' stuntman for a long time. Like, this guy is one of those not just an action filmmaker, but one of those filmmakers in the last few years that when I hear he's involved with a project, I know it's going to be quality. Like, it's, here's my money, where's my ticket? Like, I'm there day one for this movie if it happens.
Yeah, like, it's going to be something amazing. Like, I know when The Last of Us comes out, which it's going to survive the HBO cuts, because Sony would be like, nah, motherfucker, you ain't pulling that shit.
Slow your roll, Zaslav. Slow your roll.
I'm thinking this would make some money, especially if this is a movie where if you got the right trailer company to really market this, you could do something fantastic. And this could be, I think, in terms of video game adaptations that are currently coming out, because Uncharted did not do the business that it should have. Mostly, I'm thinking, due to casting and story. No offense to Tom Holland, no offense to Mark Wahlberg, but what are you doing? The Last of Us has potential, serious potential, because it's a beloved story. It's got the right cast. It's got Lady Mormont as Ellie. It's got Mando as Joel. It's got the caliber. Can it be pulled off? I believe so.
And slight tangent when I spoke about Hiroyuki Sanada. Now, I forget if I think he was in The Last Samurai, and I know he was in 47 Ronin. Now, I know a lot of people, when I spoke about the romanticism of samurai culture, that is The Last Samurai. Like, but it's also a very beautifully made film, and not that Tom Cruise doesn't act, but that's like, you see, like, he acted in that movie. And I think 47 Ronin, in terms of samurai films, like, I think it's vastly underrated. Like,
It
yeah,
gets it gets a bit of a bad rap.
yeah, a lot of CGI. Like, I'm not gonna knock that, and it's not like it's bad. See, it's just like, it was fun, and it was Keanu, so why not?
Mm-hmm. So we will wait and see what happens with that. So moving on to our next story. This one is very interesting. So this one comes courtesy of GameLuster.com, but this was also covered by Kotaku and several other outlets. As Blair makes a lot of fucking noise. Court documents confirm Xbox One sold less than half of PS4 numbers. A high-profile case is ongoing in Brazil as Microsoft attempts to defend its Activision Blizzard acquisition from CADE, the Brazilian Competition Authority. Official court documents have revealed a lot of juicy details so far. The latest court papers from Microsoft have confirmed that the Xbox One sold less than half of Sony's PlayStation 4 throughout its lifetime. Microsoft has been refusing to release console sales information since 2015, claiming it wasn't in the key metric of success they like to focus on. Microsoft prefers to focus on engagement, a key factor for the creation of Xbox Game Pass. The hesitation to release sales figures never stop business analysts from coming up with some accurate estimation of sales. Ampere Analytics data predicted 51 million sales of the Xbox One line of consoles in 2020. And it appears they were right. The information can be found on page 18 of the Microsoft court papers dated August 9th, 2022. The translated line reads, Sony has surpassed Microsoft in terms of console sales and install base, having sold more than twice as many than Xbox in the last generation, from a rough Google translation. A member of Game Luster staff who can read Spanish was able to partially read through the Portuguese and concurs with the translation. Sony released their final PS4 sales figures, confirming 117.2 million sales of the console line, making it the second biggest home console of all time. This means the Xbox One must have sold less than approximately 58.5 million units, which is now in line with the former industry analyst predictions. This places the Xbox One right below the NES and just above the Super Nintendo. 50-something million sales is hardly a failure, but likely far below what Microsoft had hoped for the Xbox One. Regardless of the numbers, Microsoft seems to be learning from its past mistakes by focusing on delivering games that people want through acquisitions. Microsoft hopes to see increased Xbox sales and rising Game Pass subscription numbers. Can't say I'm surprised. Sony, in my opinion, delivers a better single player experience. Its multiplayer has gotten significantly better, especially because Sony used to have exclusive Call of Duty content for a while, whereas Xbox to me was always seen as kind of the more dude bro console, which is funny because that's where I play a lot of my games is on Xbox. Like, that's where I've played all my CODs, because that's where I've got my Xbox Pro controller. That's where, if you want to play games like Madden and FIFA, I tend to associate those with the Xbox. Whereas if you want to talk single player games, The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Infamous, Uncharted, Spider-Man, God of War. When I say Xbox, what do you think of, JT? Maybe Halo, Gears of War, and blank.
Pretty much you say Xbox, and the first thing that pops in my head is the Master Chief.
Yeah, and looking at something like that now, I mean, Master Chief's last foray, last generation on the Xbox One was Xbox's Halo 5 Guardians, which pissed a lot of people off, so much so they had to reboot the series kind of sort of with Halo Infinite. And I liked my Xbox One. I liked that I could integrate my television into it. And I'm probably one of like 10 people who liked that. But then Xbox had a major stumbling block when it announced it's always on DRM, and they quickly got rid of that shit. And Xbox, I feel, for the last two console generations, has always been doing some form of damage control. But with Xbox Game Pass, that's a fantastic value. Now, Sony's doing their own thing with like PlayStation Plus right now, and it's okay. Actually, I got sent a code to take a look at that a couple of weeks ago, so maybe I should do my impressions. I know Alex did his, whereas I play a lot on Game Pass, so I'll kind of give a kind of versus comparison. But yeah, I can't say I'm surprised like at all. And this console generation, I think PlayStation 5's gonna take it, even though the Xbox is the more powerful console. Right now, Sony's got games. What does Xbox have? It's got Game Pass, and that's cool, but it's got Game Pass, and that's cool. Sony's got the games consistently almost every single quarter. I think the only stumbling block Sony has really had this year is Gran Turismo didn't do the numbers that it wanted to, plus it's microtransaction hell from what I understand. But you've got God of War coming out later. You've got Final Fantasies coming out. You've got Spider-Man on the horizon. You've got Wolverine coming out. Like, Microsoft, what do you got? Season 3 of Halo and Starfield, which got pushed from November of this year to April next year. And it looks like a Fallout 4 reskin. And don't get me wrong, guys. I love Bethesda, but I'm a little sick of their bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
like, starting from like PS3 forward with the consoles, in my head, I've always associated the PlayStation with elegance and art more so than I have Xbox. Because, I mean, PlayStation comes from Japan, and you look at any number of the literal 1,000 pieces of media that we've gotten from Japan over the years. I mean, as much as we love, chicks dig giant robots, you look at the artistry and the storytelling and even the original, Mobile Suit Gundam, and you roll with that forward all these years because you have PS4. Like, when I think RPG games on a console, I'm thinking PlayStation.
Yep. The Xbox had remarkably few really big RPGs, but when you think of PlayStation, you've got Persona and like Final Fantasy. Like, what does the Xbox have? It had not Jade Dragon. Maybe, I don't know. It just didn't have a lot. And now that the Xbox is getting Persona, cool. You're playing catch up about 10 years too fucking late.
Oh, Xbox is to DC as Sony is to Marvel, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, you even look at stuff like the Infamous series on PlayStation, of which I've yet to play and very much would like to, but there's really nothing, like there's not a lot of analogs between the two. Like, for every PlayStation Final Fantasy, there's COD on Xbox. I mean, there's only so many times you can play World War II or any of the games. Like, I tried getting into Advanced Warfare.
That was my game. That was the closest I really ever got to fully immersing.
I think I was just burnt out on COD by the time I got to that, because I got about halfway through the game where you go from working for Kevin Spacey's PMC to essentially the Resistance, and I never went back. So, no, it's I'm also not surprised, because Xbox seems to depend on trends more than PlayStation has.
Yeah.
overall. And the fact
PlayStation
that,
has better first party devs,
oh
I
yeah,
think.
and also that last kind of that towards the end of the article there, Xbox One's, it's right between the two Nintendo consoles. Like, that should tell you something, that if an 8-bit system like the original Nintendo sold more than Xbox One, which is literally going from a pocket calculator to a supercomputer in some respects, y'all fucked up on some level.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to our next story this week, continuing the HBO Max slaughter fest, HBO Max has laid off 14% of its staff. So last Monday, HBO Max parted ways with a substantial amount of its workforce due to corporate restructuring. In a recent report from Deadline, the streamer ended up letting go roughly 14% of its workforce, or 70 employees in total. The trade obtained a memo sent to the remaining staff members, courtesy of Chief Officer Casey Bloys, where the executive explained the company's decisions. Unfortunately, the environment in which we operate is changing rapidly, and it's up to us to continue to refine our model, the chart a course for long-term success. Bloys' memo reads in part, as you've heard from David Zaslav during our last earnings call, producing top-tier HBO Max scripted content is crucial to Warner Brothers Discovery's future. Part of this process involves an honest assessment of what we need moving forward. According to the memo, the streamer will focus on its Max originals, IP series such as Peacemaker, Dune, The Penguin, and Green Lantern. Although I'm confident these structural changes will allow us to sustain a thriving business model, these decisions have been extremely painful to make, the memo adds. We operate in an environment where we must adapt in real time to industry and company eccentricities. I've never heard of that word before.
Eccentricities?
Not exactly. It's weird. None of this lessens the blow of parting ways with such talented, trusted, hardworking, and celebrated teammates. I extend to each of them my deepest appreciations as they transition to their next opportunity. And then there's a copy of the memo, which is more or less word salad and corporate kind of doublespeak for, well, can you clear out your desk by the end of the day? Thank you. Fuck you. Here's a mug. Go away. This Warner Brother Discovery thing's been fucking ugly. I've heard of people, actually, I think people are losing like all the stuff that they've worked on. It's just been wiped from like certain services.
Yeah.
It's ugly. I mean, nobody likes to get fired. Nobody likes to get fired in the creative space either. And like, yeah, that's cool. They're going to keep doing Dune. They've recommitted to the Green Lantern. All right, neat.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I've even heard people talk about that Harley Quinn may not be safe. Titans and Doom Patrol are on the bubble.
Okay, you take Brandon Fraser from a Zaslav and we're going to throw down.
Like, I understand how they want to cut back on development cost, and I get that, but I really think they should... HBO, I still think they could be a serious competitor to Disney Plus if they wanted to. Yes, it's going to cost money. Yes, it's going to take time and resources to put that work in. You're not going to get your Mandalorian out of the fucking gate without putting the time in first, because Mando sat developing for a long fucking time. Peacemaker was great, and you are giving it the time to breathe. Any of the Matt Reeves spin-offs, like that Gotham series, I think that's still happening. The Penguin series,
I hope not.
I think that could be okay. The Penguin series, that could be really cool.
Oh no, that I'm definitely looking forward to. Sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, like, give these projects time to breathe. It's gonna take time. You're gonna take a hit or two. I mean, like, you look at other streaming competitors like Hulu, which we don't get in Canada, but they just put out Prey, which has been called the most successful Predator movie since the original. Some even say it surpasses it. You look at Peacock. What does it have going for it? It was so ashamed of the Munsters, it went to fucking Netflix. It has Halloween Ends in a couple of months. And what? What does Peacock have?
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. Whoopie fucking do. Which, admittedly, it did get better in its second season, but
Then it got canceled, and then they have canceled. Wrestling.
Yeah, like, whoopie fucking do. Like, there's just... The streaming wars are going to get ugly. It's a long game. If you want to retain subscribers, you need to play the long game. Fuck, even HBO Max, if I remember this right, doesn't have Harry Potter right now. And think of what you will about J.K. Rowling. In short, she sucks, the end. HBO, Warner Brothers owns Harry Potter, and that's going to Peacock for a while.
Yeah.
Like,
the word I'm looking for is it's bullshit, Zaslav.
Yeah.
Because you're trimming back, 40%. Like, okay, it's not to sound insensitive. It's only 70 people, but again, that's a significant 14%. That's a pretty sizable portion of your workforce. And you're all about trimming it down and getting rid of the theaters. Like it's like maybe a 3% chance of getting a 5th season of Young Justice right now with all this, but it's probably not going to happen. Harley Quinn's almost assuredly canceled because of all this bullshit, and that is a quality show.
Yeah, like amazingly funny.
Yeah, and it's Penny from The Big Bang Theory, and I'm surprised that, not that I didn't think she could be funny, but like, you watch that, and was it the stewardess or whatever,
the attendant or something? Yeah.
She's great in that, so I love the show. But no, it's like, you guys are trimming all this fat now, but I get the sense that a lot of these people might get these invitations to come back and reapply for their old jobs or something, because once they start getting on this 10-year Zaslav plan, they're going to be cranking stuff out. They're going to be cranking the machine back up, which means you're going to need these people back, and you're going to start spending money again, which is, looking at the situation, they're cutting all these shows and firing all these people because they want to save money. Have you not heard of spending money to make money? Now, I mean, you got to be smart about it. But like I said, you canceled. We talked the last time I was on about how they canceled like the Our Flag Means Death and all these other HBO Max shows that are just done. But you guys are still okay. You got Dune, which is legitimately one of the biggest sci-fi movies come out in the last few years, and a very beautiful looking one. You've got all the DC series. Again, the fact that Green Lantern hasn't been cut, wow. But you guys are going to focus so much on this because you're still chasing that Disney Marvel dollar. And I'm not saying it's shot in the foot, but they've definitely cranked their toe into the corner of the bed.
Yeah, like, it's going to take time. And I'd rather something take time and be great than rush and we get shit, because then you get poor projects. And I'm just going to come out and say it. I didn't like Wonder Woman 1984. I'm not the biggest fan of Aquaman, but it was fine. And not everything Marvel's done has been fantastic. I mean, people are divided over Captain Marvel. People didn't care for Black Widow. Eternals was kind of a bust in my opinion. And, not everything they make is great. I mean, fuck, people don't like Avengers Age of Ultron. I like it a lot, actually.
How dare you disrespect the magic that is James Spader, people?
Hey, yeah, and it's like, not everything is going to be great, but Marvel took the time. Warner Brothers, DC, you're gonna have to wait your 10-year plan to play out. You got to give it time to fucking breathe. You're not going to accomplish 10 years in 2. It's not going to happen.
And pardon me, in a roundabout, this is a bit of an asshole mention, Zaslav going in like this and like, we're going to cancel this and we're going to restart. This is just classic DC Comics. Like, because like with every few years they have a crisis event, which sometimes inevitably leads to them altering or rebooting their continuity in some measure. And there are parallels here. I know it's a bit of a pull, but there are parallels because you look
So
at
is
how DC.
Zaslav like the anti-monitor or something?
Well, I think Zaslav is akin to DC editorial in the 80s when they did the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Because, brief sidebar, folks, when you look at DC Comics in the 80s, you know, Captain Marvel and the Marvel family were on Earth S, Justice Society was on Earth 2, Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters were on Earth X, where the Nazis won. So, and then the crisis happened where, pardon me, where the aforementioned Anti-Monitor comes, destroys the multiverse, and by the end of it, all these worlds are condensed down into one world, one timeline. But even within 10 years of that, they started breaking it down with Zero and all that. And that's just what it seems like here. Like Zaslav, you had all this stuff, wasn't the most coherent, but there was all these things. Like they even canceled Infinity Train and Aquaman King of Atlantis. And as much as King of Atlantis was very much in the vein of the purported Cal Arts style of kids' cartoons, like that abysmal Thundercats Roar and others of that ilk, you still had all these very creative shows. And yeah, like you guys are like, it's like burning the village to save the people kind of thing.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's goofy. We'll wait and see what happens next. All right, so to our final story this week. This one was kind of a bit of a surprise. So coming to us from Deadline, the Embracer Group acquires IP rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Swedish video game company Embracer Group has acquired Middle-earth Enterprises, a division of the Saul Zaentz company, which owns the intellectual property catalog and worldwide rights to the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. The financial terms of the acquisition were not disclosed, but the deal means Embracer Group will pick up the motion picture, video game, board game, merchandising, theme parks, and stage production rights relating to the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit franchises, as well as matching rights in other Middle-earth related literary works authorized by the Tolkien estate and HarperCollins, which have yet to be explored. This quote is, "I am truly excited to have the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, one of the world's most epic fantasy franchises, join the Embracer family, opening up more transmedia opportunities, including synergies across our global group," says Lars Winsfors, founder and Group CEO, Embracer Group. "I am thrilled to see what lies in the future for this IP with Free Mode and Asmodee. As within the group going forward, we also look forward to collaborating with both existing and external licensees of our increasingly stronger IP portfolio. As part of the deal, Middle-earth Enterprises will form part of a newly founded operator group, Embracer Free Mode. The company will continue to operate independently under existing Middle-earth Enterprises leadership team. In a statement, Marty Glick, CEO of the Saul Zaentz company, said, "We at the Zaentz company have the honor to, over the past half century, stewarding the Tolkien rights so that the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit fans worldwide could enjoy award-winning epic films, challenging video games, first-rate theater, and merchandise of every variety. We could not be more thrilled that it is Embracer now taking up the responsibility, and we are confident their group will take it to new heights and dimensions while maintaining homage to the spirit of these great literary works. Embracer Group's operative group, Asmodee Group, has had a long-standing relationship with the Tolkien IP, having published the Lord of the Rings board game over 20 years ago, as well as producing the Lord of the Rings, the card game. Key upcoming works set in Middle-earth, in which Middle-earth Enterprises has financial interests, include Amazon's highly anticipated The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, which debuts in just a couple of weeks on September 2nd, 2022, as well as the Warner Brothers animated Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohan, set for release in 2024. Pretty sure I fucked that name up. And the EA mobile game, The Lord of the Rings, Heroes of Middle-earth. And this is a sidebar for me. I've actually been reviewing some of the games, notably from Free League Publishing, the One Ring. I do have some additional stuff to cover out of that, and maybe I'll prioritize that this week before the IP rights may change hands. All right, cool. Give me some cool new video games. I'm happy. I would love to see that Lord of the Rings series. I think has gone out to critics already. I don't know anybody personally who has access to them. I've got my suspicions on who might. Hopefully it's good. So hopefully this is good news. I don't know. Whenever a big corporate entity takes over something neat, it's either really good or really fucking bad. So I don't really have a whole lot to say other than the fact I hope this is in the right hands. The fact that there is an animated thing, I think that's really cool. I would like to see more Lord of the Rings media. I'm really looking forward to Rings of Power. So I'm sure we'll probably do something on that. Maybe we'll talk about that on Sunday Funnies or Loose Cannon or something, because that's really kind of its own thing, I guess. So I don't know. JT, are you like a Hobbit fan or anything?
I'm a fan of the original trilogy, like, the original
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, and I mean, I read stuff recently about, like, the article. I think the titles were a little inflammatory, but how the producers on this series didn't even attempt to court any input from Peter Jackson. In fact, I remember reading an article where one of Tolkien's children, I believe one of his sons, was talking about how Jackson's work and bastardized my father's legacy, blah-de-dee, blah. And I was like, that just sounds a lot more sour grapes than anything, but it also smacked of what you see so much more often nowadays when you try to adapt something, and if it doesn't fit perfectly within the confines of somebody's definition of a property, it therefore sucks and must be burned to the ground and the earth shall be salted. Now, that being said, I kind of forgot the Rings of Power was coming out. I barely remember watching that first trailer. And I mean, sure, give it a chance. I mean, I just think the whole idea of corporations, consolidating power like this and trying to make the next big thing out of whatever IP property they can get their hands on. No, very few of them seem to be going into it with the purest of intentions. I mean, to go back to the Ghost of Tsushima that we talked about a few minutes ago, like I said, with Chad Stahelski, he has this passion, he has this drive, and he has the experience and a proven track record. I think if you need to have somebody like this involved with Lord of the Rings, which is why I'm surprised Peter Jackson isn't involved. And honestly, like, since that original trailer of Rings of Power, like I said, I forgot this show was coming out. I haven't seen barely any mention of anything Lord of the Rings until this article and an article I saw a couple weeks ago about how Viggo Mortensen came close to not playing Aragorn in the trilogy. So give it a chance. We'll see what happens. Sure, that animated movie, I'll give that a try. I haven't touched any of the games in the lifespan of the franchise, so
I bought the Lord of the Rings games that came out a couple of, probably in the Xbox One era. Shadows of Mordor or something I bought because it was like $5.
Was there a Lego Lord of the Rings game?
Yes, there was.
Okay,
so
the closest I ever came to playing that game was just watching a friend of mine play when I was hanging out at her place like 15 years ago. So
yeah, it has been a while. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network. And we're going to take a brief break here, and we're going to check out one of our reviews from Alex. This is his latest adventure going under the sea, and not with a red lobster or a mermaid person. This is a review of a classic television show I'm sure you will all enjoy.
The 21st century. Mankind has colonized the last unexplored region on Earth, the ocean. As captain of the SeaQuest and its crew, we are its guardians. For beneath the surface lies the future.
It's finally time for me to talk about SeaQuest DSV, Deep Submersible Vehicle. Blech. I always get that messed up when I try to talk about it. Now, this is a series that I watched as a kid, and I remember like how it was always described to me and how I described it to other people when I was younger was as Star Trek: The Next Generation underwater, and that's sort of that's almost not being nice to it, because the reality is it's always been a really good, interesting show. Now, what is the premise of SeaQuest DSV? It came out at the height of the boom of sci-fi shows coming out, where they had some CG was starting to become popular, but it was these big budget revivals because of how popular TNG became. And this was produced by Spielberg. Other shows that were contemporaries at this time that were trying to follow a similar format of a team on a ship or whatever, trying to do stuff. You had like Earth 2 had a season. You had Earth 2, you had Babylon 5, you had a bunch of others that were trying to do this. And this is right before like Stargate came out, which had a similar idea behind it. And this show starred Roy Scheider, Jonathan Brandis, Ted Raimi, the DeLuise brothers, with a bunch of different, guest stars each time. And each episode happened underwater in the near future in a brand new special vehicle that could explore underwater, because the idea and premise was, hey, before we explore the stars, we should really explore the parts of our planet that we've never been able to see, which is so much of the underwater world that we've never been able to reach because of high pressures or whatever reason. So it was like, we should explore within. And it's a really cool premise. And obviously it also has a talking dolphin. But not talking as in like Goofy. It was like, it had like an impulse thing hooked up to his head. It tried to be as hard sci-fi as possible. And it ran 3 seasons, 2 of which with the original full cast, and some people changed slightly throughout. Then Roy Scheider left in the 3rd season and was replaced by Michael Ironside. And it became a show where they were transported to an alien planet and they're in space and stuff. Weird stuff started to happen. And it was a shorter 13-episode season that for years never had a home video release. I owned seasons 1 and 2. They were some of the earliest DVDs to come out. Back in the day when you had DVD sets that like unfolded flaps, like these big cardboard sets. And I had both first and second season. 3rd season for years was only available in Europe and in PAL regions. And then and it was even renamed. Weirdness happened there. And then there was an Australian Blu-ray release that came out, and I actually picked that up, imported it, because it was region free. It was NTSC, it's not really NTSC. It was ATSC standard, but it ran at the proper frame rate, so it wasn't running at like 25 frames per second. It was 24, so it would work on every television in North America. And I was like, sweet. Spent the crazy amount of money, $150 or whatever to import it. And watched it and thought it was pretty good. And then finally we get a North American region, region A, region 1 release, and it's from Mill Creek, and they send over a review copy for me to check out, and it's actually slightly better. This release has some new special features, new interviews and stuff. It's not on the Australian release, not on the DVDs. These are new, as well as the audio is identical. Video wise appears to be slightly higher quality, if that makes any sense. I think they crammed more of it's using the same transfer. It's using the same HD transfer that was created for the previous Blu-ray, but I believe that it's compressed a little less on here. And more importantly, I like the cases better. It's all in one Blu-ray case. It's not one of those cases that falls apart. It's actually very well put together. It's no stacking of discs in this release. It takes up less space on the shelf as well. And I think it's actually a pretty good deal, considering for years and years you were not able to get this show. It was out of print in North America. They had previously released the seasons a few different times, and it just wasn't really an easy to come by show. And yet it was one of the more popular shows of the 90s. It's just it wasn't receiving the love that I think it deserved. And it's nice now that we've got, an actual way to pick it up in proper, clean, pristine high definition. It's actually like on sale. If you go to like Amazon.com, you can pick it up for $50 US, which is down from the MSRP of about $80-$85, which is killer. It's basically a third of the price of when I had to import the Australian copy. Now, it is in its original stereo, and it's in the original aspect ratio 1:3:3:1, but it is pristine, looks super high quality, and it also includes a couple deleted scenes and new interviews and featurettes with the series creator, directors, and crew. So, well worth it. One of the more fun shows of the 90s. I hope Mill Creek picks up some of these other series that have been languishing and starts putting them out on Blu-ray in the future. Highly recommended. One of my favorite shows in the 90s.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman, he's JT from Saskatoon. Alright, let's start things off for the weird, wacky, the strange, the unusual, the things that make you go, what the hell were you thinking? This is the weird news. Alright, so this one comes courtesy of TheDirect.com, and yes, Disney just made a Tinder profile for She-Hulk. She-Hulk Attorney at Law is a matter of days away. It's already out by the time this show has come out, making the Hulk-centric project in the MCU since The Incredible Hulk since 2008. The series will follow Tatiana Maslany's Jennifer Walters as she not only navigates her legal career, but also her newly acquired Hulk abilities. The project looks like it'll be something a little different from the Marvel Studios' usual formula, with Maslany calling it the antithesis of most superhero narratives. While holding on to most of the trappings of the MCU, this 9-episode legal comedy will venture outside the norm for the franchise, with the Fourth War, Malcolm in the Style middle breaks being just one of the examples of how it will do it. With She-Hulk being as unique as it is, it deserves just as a distinct marketing campaign, and it seems they have found one of the more popular. They found one on the more dating app Tinder. Ads for the upcoming MCU Disney Hulk series She-Hulk have started popping up on the online dating platform Tinder. Twitter user Jazopath found that while swiping through potential suitors, there is now an opportunity to come across a profile for Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. The profile comes outfitted with everything one would expect on the platform, featuring a full bio as well as a couple images to swipe through. The She-Hulk bio says, "I know what you're thinking, this can't be real, and guess what? It's not," before going into an ad promoting the upcoming show. The ad says, "I know what you're thinking, this can't be real, and guess what? It's not. But suspend your disbelief for just 1 second and pretend you've just matched with She-Hulk. Excited? Find out what she does with She-Hulk Attorney at Law streaming August 18th on Disney+. Seriously, she goes on dates." Upon swiping right on She-Hulk's profile, mass users are greeted with an automated message saying, "Stop reading this and set up a date to watch She-Hulk, blah, 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 blah." The Tinder marketing campaign stems from Walter's own dating in the Disney Plus series, as she's seen swiping through potential suitors on the popular dating app in the first trailer. One date was even shown to prove so successful she is seen carrying the man from the couch, presumably to the bedroom, with ease. This is not the first time Tinder has been used to promote an upcoming movie or TV show, but it is the first time Marvel has utilized the platform. Notably, back in 2014, Tinder was used in the promotion of Alex Garland's sci-fi thriller Ex Machina, where users who were attending the South by Southwest Festival in Austin, Texas, could match with Ava, the AI from the film. And despite Marvel never having touched the world of online dating until now, they have had plenty of experience with creative marketing schemes in relation to their various projects. Some fans may remember in the runner-up to the first Ant-Man film, where the studio planted tiny Ant-Man sculptures across London, England. The activation showed the bite-sized hero battling atop turnstiles, flying on an ant, or sitting on the tiniest bus shelter in the whole city. One of the more recent examples of Marvel's creative marketing schemes could be seen on Spider-Man No Way Home. Some may remember the Daily Bugle TikTok channel popping up in preparation for the movie. This was paired with a real-life Daily Bugle newspaper stands that were set up around the world, spreading stories of New York's Spider-Man. So while Tinder may be uncharted territory, the MCU has been no stranger to thinking outside the box when it comes to promoting projects. That's funny. I think that's actually kind of cool.
Okay, when I say it's cute, I do mean that with genuine affection. Tatiana Maslany, folks don't know, was in the brilliant Orphan Black sci-fi series, where she literally had to play like 8 different versions of herself because it involved clones. Like, she's got the talent. I was amazed at how seamless her performance going from Jen to She-Hulk in the show was. And I think this is honestly a bit of brilliant, almost AR kind of mark show, because like it's heavily promoting the thing that, you know, she's, you know, a woman, she's looking for love, she goes on these dates. Like that first trailer with, I'll admit, that atrocious CGI on She-Hulk, because they hadn't quite, you know, tweaked the settings to sharpen it up. Yeah, that thing's like, this is the best date I've had in a while, and she's like, oh, do you want to split some fries? And it's like, is this code in the dating world? Like, let's go home and smash? Also, the wrong word to use when you're going to bed with She-Hulk, because she's probably going to break you, little man.
You know what? It's one of those series. I watched it last night with my wife, and we had a lot of fun with it. Alex says he's refusing to watch it until it's fully out. He's like, I can't stand the CG. I'm thinking, all right, fine, I guess, sure. That's a weird reason to hate a series, but hey, if a show looks like it has bad special effects, I get that. I do.
I know, but I've seen so many like comments on Facebook when that first trailer came out, and articles talking about the show, and everyone's writing the show off, and some are refusing to see it because, okay, it was a work print version of the trailer. Like I said, they hadn't tightened up the graphics. That, yeah, she looked like a CGI character. Like, it was more so like in the show, obviously, you know, it's CGI, but there is just, you know, apparent. And I think that's like just a very poor decision when people write something off because it, again, to go back to a comment I made earlier, where they write something off because it doesn't conform perfectly to the idea they have in their heads.
There's a very famous running joke behind the scenes at TWIG, and it involves a guy that we used to work with, and he used to write things off if he didn't like the trailer to something. And it makes me think of that. But at the same time, a trailer should be something to wow you. But I want to point out a very famous example to which all of us were fooled. Do you remember when we saw the first trailer for Suicide Squad back in 2016?
Mm-hmm.
People thought that was the coolest trailer. And I still agree. It's still one of the greatest trailers we've seen in a really long time. That's a really good use of Bohemian Rhapsody. But the movie ended up being a really big disappointment. But still, it got 2 sequels. So what do you want? Yeah. So I like She-Hulk. I hope more people will give it a chance. I think it's funny. Like, for example, even Miss Marvel. I don't think the trailers did that series any favors. I thought it was great, yet it had really low viewership for Marvel, despite being critically acclaimed. So, I don't know, man.
I'm a fan of Miss Marvel, and I understand what Marvel was going for in changing her powers, but that goes back to like the WB thing. You can't have Batman in a Batman-based TV show in the Arrowverse because people are going to get confused. Like, well, she can't have stretchy powers because Mr. Fantastic has stretchy powers, and that doesn't make sense. Yeah, you only got like 36 different variations of Spider-Man, and you guys are just fine doing the Spider-Verse movies. Like, you're sending mixed signals, Marvel.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Be consistent, motherfucker. Yeah.
Also, I love the comedy in that first episode, like where you see Hulk's hand come in with the air horn, and he's like, "Do you feel any amount of rage?" "Yes, a normal amount of rage." "Was that necessary?" And just, you can see the smile on Hulk's face, and you could also therefore see the dumb grin on Mark Ruffalo's face. It's like, for comedy, yes.
Yeah, like, that's something that if Marvel has done anything, I feel, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, when it treats its stars right, they reciprocate in so many ways. Like, Marvel did dirty with Scarlett Johansson because she got screwed and eventually they got that all figured out. But let's face it, Natasha ain't coming back anytime soon. But look at how well they've treated Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Paul Rudd, even Chris Pratt, love him or hate him. If you need people to go to kids' hospitals or to do Make-A-Wish or to do anything on social media, these are the guys that are there, like almost immediately.
Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland. Like, I have a feeling Tatiana will probably be another one of these people that people kind of gravitate towards because I think she portrays such a fun character, and her chemistry with Mark Ruffalo is something else.
Oh no, that they were cousins. Like, just the overall, where he tosses her off the cliff, young punk, or where he launches the boulder into space. I was like, finally, the Hulk has Hulk level strength. I love all that. I can't wait to see more of the show. And
yeah, I'm kind of mad. I'm kind of mad Disney didn't offer me the first 4 episodes because that's what was offered to critics. And I'm on the Disney press list. I'm thinking, give me all this red carpet stuff, but come on, give me the good stuff.
And honestly, just quickly, I'm very surprised because, Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo both have that bit of a history of spoilers. And there's a gag that I've seen on, is this girl, Nikki, I can't remember her last name, on TikTok, who's like a huge Marvel fan. And she has this recurring series of videos where she plays all the characters and she throws Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo are tied up in a basement when a movie's about to come out. You guys are not doing press because you spoil everything. You'd think there'd be some sort of, what's the word? Like reciprocation or whatever the word is from Ruffalo doing all this, but they treat him so well. And he just has like this good natured, jovial sense of things. And I can't help but love him.
He's one of those guys where I really feel, even if I could sit down and have a conversation with him, and my one rule is you can't talk Marvel, I have a feeling he would have a lot to say. And he's very active on social media. He stands up for so many rights of so many marginalized groups and spreads the message. He's a good dude. So I think Marvel's done something kind of special there. So moving on to our next story, and where do I start with this one? So this one comes courtesy of the AV Club, and I'm just going to read this to you because it's so strange. Insane Clown Posse's Violent J would like to make friends with a primate. Violent J tweeted that he's been studying primates lately and needs access to a, quote, fresh monkey. Violent J, one half of the world's foremost crazy clown organization, needs the internet's help. It turns out Jay has been hitting the books recently and has found himself so deeply invested in the field of primatology that he's desperate to employ his theoretical knowledge in practical hands-on field research. In short, he needs access to a, quote, fresh monkey. So he wrote this on Twitter. Personal message from Violent J. Sup, ninjas? Yo, I've been studying primates lately. I'm talking chimps, gorillas, spider monkeys, orangutans, etc. They're all awesome in my book. So if you happen to own or work with one of these dope creatures, or if you know someone who does, then please leave me a message because, Ninja, I'd like to be your friend. Not because you're a great guy or any of that. Nope. The truth is I'd only like to be your friend because you got access to a fresh monkey. Now, before you go call me a user, face the facts. The only fact you'd even let me meet that damn monkey is because I rap fresh. It's that simple. Shit, we should both be glad your monkey can't rap because if it could, it would both ass us out of this equation. So leave me your info, monkey nuts, and I'll bring bananas. I
love this man.
That's very, he's very true. He's very true to himself. So
to paraphrase Little Nicky, the Insane Clown Posse always came straight with their message.
I mean, it's so strange. So, yeah, I hope Violent J gets a opportunity, be it from one of the many zoos, that can provide safe access to a monkey, because private ownership of a monkey is not encouraged. In fact, I remember, and JT, you probably remember this too because you were alive. Do you remember in the 90s when somebody called into 911 when their monkey was freaking out and it ripped off somebody's face and they were trying to beat it with a shovel, and eventually sheriff's deputies had to come and put the monkey down?
I do recall hearing about that back in the day, although it feels like that might have been a little more recent, i.e. it would have been definitely after the year 2000.
Yeah, I think it was either late 90s or 2000s, but monkeys, when monkeys literally go ape shit, bad things tend to happen, and it tends to happen very, very, very fast. I remember, why am I bringing this up? If you remember the television show Friends, and how could you not? At one point, Ross has to get rid of his monkey because he's gonna go into essentially heat, and that can cause them to become unpredictable and potentially violent. So obviously people work with monkeys every day, or primates. I mean, you think of the work that Jane Goodall did by teaching Coco sign language and stuff like that. So there are opportunities. I just hope Violent J is smart enough not to wear his insane clown posse makeup while meeting said fresh monkey. Although, that's a photo op you can't just pass up.
No, see, as soon as I started reading this article, the image popped in my mind is Violent J in full ICP regalia, in a lab coat, with a pair of horn-rimmed glasses perched atop his nose with a clipboard, and he looks over his shoulder to Shaggy, too dope, and it's like, come, sir, or come, assistant, we have science to do. And you just see Shaggy walking up like Igor, just, yes, master. Because, I mean, the fact he has a passion like this, that's refreshing.
Well, I think it's Violent J has a daughter who's a furry, and he's super into it, and he's very, very, very supportive. I know there was a thing a couple of years ago where somebody tried to rip off his daughter for buying a fursuit, and he started this organization to stop people from getting ripped off or something. I mean, there's this channel on YouTube that I watch called the Punk Rock MBA. And the guy, Finn McKinty, did a video a couple months ago, maybe last month, where it's talks about the insane genius of the Insane Clown Posse. I went to school with a guy named Chris, and he was a self-proclaimed juggalo. And I've heard very good things about the juggalo community. I've also heard some very bad things, but you could say that about almost any internet or musical community of people. But I don't know. I hear more good often than not coming out of juggalos, more than just random Fago sprays and magnets. How do they work, sort of thing. So
yeah. Well,
Violent J, I hope you get your monkey wish.
Oh yeah, so do I. And I mean, I've listened to a little bit of ICP over the years. My younger brother, Josh, nicknamed Fluffy, is a bit of a juggalo, and he loves it. And I love the idea that everyone talks shit about ICP because they're quote unquote gangster rappers, because they have the makeup, because of the craziness their fans do. And I mean, they do bear some responsibility for that, but they're not wholly responsible. Sometimes people just drink too much Fago and lose their shit. But every so often I see this recurring meme posted in social media where all these people, it's a shot of Shaggy and Jay rapping, and it's lists like how they've bought and moved their mothers or grandmothers into brand new homes. They've started scholarships. These guys give back.
Yeah.
And no one recognizes that because they don't like the way they look.
It's easier to hate. It really is. So
yeah.
I hope ninjas, if you happen to own a fresh monkey, reach out. All right, so
I love that. Just, if you own a fresh monkey, that's going to make me smile all day.
It's gorgeous. All right, so we got two more stories for you. They are both kind of short. So this one comes courtesy of Kotaku, and it says somebody got Doom running on a farm tractor. One day, the classic 90s shooter Doom will be playable on every single electronic device with a screen. We aren't quite there yet, but thanks to some crafty hackers, you can now play id's seminal shooter on a jailbroken farm tractor because we live in the weirdest, dumbest cyberpunk future imaginable. Over the weekend in Las Vegas, DEF CON 2022, a large annual convention dedicated to hacking and computers, happened, and during the event, some modders showed off a jailbroken tractor computer. The tractor computer was hacked by sick codes as part of an effort to bring more awareness to how little control farmers have over their own equipment, which is often running proprietary software and can't be easily modded or repaired. After months of work using numerous John Deere tractor models and computers, the Australian modder was able to get root access and open the tractor's computer wide open. Liberate the tractors, the modders told Wire. We want farmers to be able to repair their stuff for when things go wrong, and now that means being able to repair or make decisions about the software in their tractors. Of course, the right to repair and allowing people to fully modify and control things they own is extremely important, especially when it comes to something like farming, where broken down tractors could lead to food shortages. But also gaining complete access to hacked computers let sick codes have some fun. So naturally, they got Doom running on the device. Sick codes used the source port of dehacked Doom, and with some help from another modder, Sigligate was able to create a farm-themed Doom mod that is fully playable on John Deere's tractor jailbroken system. This isn't the first time we've seen Doom running on something other than a game console or PC. In fact, for years and years, people have ported id's classic FPS to various things, including, but not limited to, pregnancy tests, cash registers, other games, and even potato-powered calculators. Now we can add John Deere tractors to that list.
Okay.
I always think that's funny.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. The fact that there are computers in tractors, like, for those that don't know, and most of you don't, I grew up on a farm in the middle of pretty much bumblefuck nowhere, Canada, like 13 miles off the Manitoba border. The most advanced tractor that my dad had on the farm was like I forget what model case it was, but it was the one, like, it basically was a monster truck for all its power and the giant ass tires. And I mean, sure, that had some computer system in there, but not like the fact that computers are in tractors like that today blows my mind. Also, the fact that you can play Doom on a pregnancy test. The cash registers thing isn't that weird, because the place that I'm currently working at, that I mentioned at the top of the show, has a touchscreen till system that is running Windows XP. So we could definitely hook Doom up in there. In fact, it would probably be able to run it no problem. But is this really a problem, hackers? Like, I mean, sure, like it says, showing how little control farmers have over their own equipment. I was like, is that really a problem? Was this absolutely necessary?
I could see it being able, because if it's running proprietary software or something, it means that you have to go to the manufacturer to get it fixed. And that's just another way. Like, I'm a big proponent of right to repair. I think it's stupid how if you try to fix it yourself, you void the warranty. And, with certain exceptions, that makes a certain amount of sense. But you should if you buy it, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want with it. So maybe running Doom shouldn't be your highest priority, but why the hell not? Speaking of why the hell not, final story this week coming to us courtesy of comingsoon.net, but also across every social media channel and Twitter you can imagine. Dragon Ball characters and locales have arrived in Fortnite. After being teased last week, the much anticipated Dragon Ball X Fortnite crossover has finally come to be, with various Dragon Ball characters, items, and areas having arrived in the Battle Royale this morning, so this was last week. Alongside Goku, Vegeta, Bulma, and Beerus, a bevy of iconic items have come to Fortnite as weapons and gliders. Goku's Power Pole is both a back cosmetic and pickaxe, while Goku's Flying Nimbus and Vegeta's Saiyan Pod are available as gliders. Master Roshi's Shell and Staff are available as a pickaxe and back cosmetic, and respectively the Fusion Dance and Power Charge Gesture are purchasable emotes. Goku, Vegeta, and Bulma all have different styles that can be equipped, like Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan forms, along with Goku's Ultra Instinct and Vegeta's Blue Evolved form. Bulma has a lab coat style as well, although Beerus has no alternate looks. A new tab has been added to the menu, which contains the Power Unleashed quests. These are 7 sets of quests that let you collect all 7 Dragon Balls. Plenty of rewards, including a Shenron glider starting August 19th, so this past week. Players will be able to explore Dragon Ball Adventure Island, where they can find the iconic Dragon Ball locations like Kami's Lookout, Kame House, as well as partake in Nimbus courses. Finally, from August 16th until September 17th, players can watch certain episodes of Dragon Ball Super on an in-game cruise ship. The Dragon Ball X Fortnite crossover is heavily rumored in early July, after originally being rumored in 2021. Following the inclusion of fellow Shonen Jump anime series Naruto Shippuden, it makes sense that Dragon Ball would be next, especially given the series' widespread international appeal, and you can go check out more information by going to Fortnite. I actually may go in there and buy Goku, as well as the power-up thing. I know you can get the Kami Kameha as an attack. I play Fortnite rarely. I went into it a couple months ago and I bought RoboCop because I didn't want to not have RoboCop. I don't have the Ghostbuster, which is kind of sad. I thought about getting Master Chief. I'm terrible at that game. Basically anything that doesn't have regenerating health or controls like COD, I'm terrible at. It's fucking weird. Although you're not going to have Goku running around with a sniper rifle in like tilted towers, I think. I don't know. Maybe you can. Fuck. It's so weird. It's such a weird thing. Like, I saw this meme where it's like, your squad is peak 2022 when it's Goku, Naruto, what were the other ones? Like sexy anime cat girl and I don't know, like RoboCop or a Ghostbuster. Games are weird, JT, and I don't know what to make of anything anymore.
I'm not going to lie. My initial impulse to reading this article is, the fuck are you smoking, people? I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying it won't work because, I didn't think Marvel would work in Fortnite, and it worked. I mean, Master Chief. It
did, yeah, because you get like Spider-Man's in there and Thanos. I remember that event, the Thanos event.
Yeah, or just seeing like so many TikToks of the Thanos skin doing like some of the celebratory dances from Fortnite. Like I've played a Fortnite a bit over the years. I can't stand the whole building thing. Like,
there is a no build mode, and that's the only way I'll play it.
Yeah, no, I've played that a few times in the last few months, here and there. Most times I don't get out of like the top 100. Like, I think the closest I've got to like 87 out of 100 once, but I'm glad I can't hear anyone talking to me in that game because I can't take like the modern day trash. Like, when you just listen to like these kids, I was like, this is what happens when everyone gets a trophy. And, because these kids have absolutely no fear of consequences. That being said, I do enjoy Fortnite, because like when I was getting into computer gaming back in the day, I would go over to my friend Curtis's apartment, and him and his roommate Keith had their own PCs linked in the living room, and they both worked at this one computer repair shop, and they had so much crap there that I cobbled together a PC, and Curtis said, if not for the fact that those things are so ruined from the static, like you could have played, but we ended up getting other computers and playing like Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition. I remember me and Curtis took on everyone, and we had skins of Optimus and Megatron, and there was like a really bad Jay and Silent Bob skins that we used. So the idea of like, a FPS game like this, where it's just, not even capture flag, it's just shoot everyone else, domination or elimination, whatever they're called. It's fun. So I could get in this. I can see people going around with the power pole as Goku and whacking mofos upside the head. And of course, Beerus doesn't have any other looks, because Beerus does not need any other looks. He is perfect in all things. He's obviously my favorite new character in the franchise, because as soon as I started watching Super, I was like, oh, I like you.
Whis is probably one of my favorites. I hope they bring in Whis. If I had to recommend another character for that game, Dragon Ball wise, I don't know. Maybe Piccolo would be fun.
If we could bring in a very specific character or a specific iteration, and I mean, legalities involved would not allow this, but I would love it if we had Cell, and any dialogue that he speaks is done by Curtis Takahata 101 from Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Yes.
Because the greatest thing to come out of that was, Takahata 101 doing anything. The fact that he is the, like, more or less official voice of Deadpool in the Death Battle video series on YouTube is just chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we got for this edition of The Weird News this week. As always, we do look forward to hearing from you. So if you have any things to submit to us, you can email us feedback@thisweekingeek.net or check out our Twitter account, which Alex maintains. So we're going to take a final look at a new Switch game Alex had a chance to review, and we're going to wrap things up before we head off into the sunset for this week.
Alex here with just a quick review of Lost in Play. We were sent a review code to check out, and this is the game that you might have seen on some trailers or around, that has an art style that's like a cartoony, hand-drawn art style that looks a lot like Gravity Falls, inspired by that sort of art. Now, this is a point-and-click puzzle adventure where you're solving puzzles in a cartoon world, almost like you're living within an actual like television cartoon. Now, the puzzle design is pretty good. Now, this is available both on PC and on Switch. I reviewed the Switch version. It scales really well to Switch. There's not really any performance issues. It's kind of actually pretty perfect on the Switch when it comes to the visual presentation and performance. It's not an overly demanding game, even though it looks really good. Now, the puzzle design is really well done. It's not too difficult. You're able to figure out things pretty easily, but at the same time, the challenge does go up a little bit. It's not frustrating. It's just something good that you can sit down with and not get frustrated over at all. The art is fantastic. Again, like I said, it looks like you're playing an actual cartoon. The story is wholesome and family friendly enough that anybody can play it. You can play it with kids. You can play it out in the open and not worry about it. There's not really anything bad I can say about this game. It's something that feels like it would have come out in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s heyday of like the Sierra or the LucasArts adventure game boom that we had on PC. And I think it's really, really well put together. I hope to see more from this developer. And, if this brings up a bit of a revolution in Nintendo Switch point-and-click adventures, I'm totally down with that. I think that would be fun. It's a great way to spend a weekend, especially if it's a rainy day and you just want to chill out and play in a cartoon adventure.
$200 channels and nothing but cats.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and we are done for this week. So we've had Goku, Vegeta, Ezra Miller, and fresh ninjas, fresh monkeys. It's been a week. What a week it has been. But thank you for joining us here on the show. Coming up on the show this week, I have recorded some stuff with JT and Ken on, I think 90s Kids movies came out. I'm not sure whether Alex has posted that
Pretty
yet.
sure it's out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's out. Me and JT did something on the DCEU, our 10-year plan for it. We're going to be recording a show on Hellraiser, which we're going to talk about the first couple movies, which that Clive Barker actually had some direct involvement with. And we're going to be, because, you know, the new Hellraiser's not too far away, folks. It just got its R rating the other day.
I honestly don't know if I want to see that, because if it, God, I'm blanking. The guy that played Pinhead,
Douglas Bradley.
Doug Bradley. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll talk about it in the show, but there used to be, I hesitate to use the word Shakespearean, but there was this elegance, this almost Shakespearean elegance to his performance that, you know, you kind of liked Pinhead, even though, you know, he's this hell priest, and Hot Topic must love this guy, but
yeah, like, I'm very curious to see where the series goes next. So after this delightful conversation, I'm going to be marathoning these all day. So I'm in for happy fun time.
The feel-good franchise of all feel-good franchises.
Oh yeah, clearly Bing Bong with the lament configuration at this point.
Oh God, I just saw that in my head.
So we're going to be talking about that on Loose Cannon this week. I know me and Aaron are planning on doing another Future Imperfect. This last week we talked about dark apocalyptic movies and the extinction of hope and what that means in popular media. This week we're going to be talking about the space program. I'm going to be talking specifically about the missions to Venus, which have mostly been undertaken by the Soviet Union, and some of the really cool things that have come out of that program, and some of the cool things that are going to be happening in the future when it comes to exploring the great beyond here on Earth. Speaking of that, me and Ken are going to be doing a bit of a discussion, not too long, probably about 15-20 minutes, about Dragon Ball Superhero, which is now in theaters and in select theaters in IMAX. I will also be talking with Beast Gohan himself. Kyle A. Bear will be doing that for, I guess I'll put that under Sunday Funnies. So we'll be talking about that, or maybe as an interview special. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We're going to be talking about that, and that should be out later on this week. And then Alex is coming back in the second week of September. So the first Monday, he will be back here on the show. I have a lot of reading to do this week, so expect more RPGs here in the show. And yeah, it's going to be busy, folks. So as always, we do appreciate you joining us. I'm sure me and JT will have such sights to show you as we tear your soul apart. It'll be good times. Like I said, good feel-good stuff. So until next time, folks, for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
JT from Saskatoon.
And I've been Mike the Birdman saying, until next time, folks, be excellent to each other. We'll catch you again next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.